Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host for tonight, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can also find me as News is Need on Twitter and CB Caps on Instagram. So sad. And the man behind the sound effects tonight, rocking the shades as always, and the cat. We need to get him a business card with the shades as his trademark or something. I don't know. Maybe we'll to Tony Stark shades. We don't know. One agent _70 on Instagram and to Twitters.
What's up, everybody?
Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at?
Exactly. And not with us tonight is one PCN _dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Network Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and his umbrella sites therein. And also, you said it wasn't going to happen, folks, and it finally did. The Vine replacement has arrived, and our very own PCN _dirt is on it. Who's apparently just read Justice League. And you can find him if you are on Byte, that's BYTE. You can go check it out at byte.co or on your mobile platform of choice at CMCRVWS. That just rolls off the tongue.
Comic reviews.
Sure, but
I know.
Yeah.
Like no vowels, right?
Yeah, it's like, all right.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah. And also, the Osiris of this ish, one Tim DOGG98 on Twitter. You can also find him at CB Cron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. You can also find him at The Click Nation on Twitter. You can also find him at theclicknation.com. And also, Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off. You can find this here podcast on the Cold Slither Podcast Network, the CSPN.us.
Do it today.
Yeah. And also you can subscribe to this here podcast from your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Cold Slither Podcast. I was doing so well. Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. You can also find us each and every Thursday night where we record, like if you're watching the video right now, hi, or at the time of this recording, Thursday night, 9:30 p.m. on the Click Nation's YouTube channel, or afterwards if you just like looking at our smiling faces and the content we might provide.
That's right, we are archived on YouTube,
so you can check that out. Oh, wait a minute. I gotta. We have a visitor.
Oh!
Let me put him in a shot here. If I can get him in a shot, hold on. Yep. I don't know if that's gonna show.
I don't know if you can hear me. I can't hear anything.
We hear you.
Hold on a second. I gotta.
We're getting you on the feed now.
Hello?
Yeah.
I hear you.
I've got sound. I have sound. Yay!
We see you now. We're just gonna get you on the streaming.
Yeah, I gotta get you. I gotta get your thing on.
Roddykat is working on it.
Yes, live broadcasting, folks.
That's right. And we did plug your Byte account just now. So you're welcome.
There we go. So you should be.
Yay!
There we go.
I still exist.
You do still exist.
Wait. Now I can actually play what I had queued up for PCN _dirt.
Oh dear.
Where is it? Oh my gosh. Why can't I find it now? Oh, goodness gracious. Did I put it away because I didn't think I was ever going to use it?
That's probably fair.
Where did it go? Oh no.
Live recording, folks.
That is awful. It's awful because I definitely had a clip to play when PCN_Dirt made his eventful.
Oh, is it the Simpsons music?
Oh yes,
Yes.
Oh
okay.
yeah.
oh yes. That's what I do not have queued up right now. It's awful. I'm just gonna have to add it real quick and.
No, just sing it. Just sing it for me.
Oh no, I had a choice of two.
Oh, okay.
I had a choice of two, which is why I'm like, no, I've got to choose one. So, but welcome back, PCN_Dirt.
Yay, the holidays are over.
We put the spring in Springfield.
There we go.
There it is.
That's my type of music. Swing that jazz,
There
baby.
it is.
Yeah, so live from Springfield, Illinois. Woo!
There it is.
Indeed. So yeah, we had just finished doing the introduction. So you came in at a great time. In fact, I think we might even switch it up just a tad bit since we were just about to go into books. Because I know the main reason, well, not the main reason, but one of the reasons was going to be to talk about Justice League from this week.
Which I just read.
Uh-huh. And I know there's seems to be some, according to Agent 70, some contention about the ending of that little saga. But do you want to still go ahead and do I'm trying to do two things at once. This is not working out well. There we go. Do you want to go ahead and do Avengers first and then get into that? Or?
All right, no worries. Yeah, we're just gonna do Avengers number 30 real quick, and then we'll jump to the insanity of Justice League 39. So Dirt, I don't think you've been keeping up with Avengers, but Jason Aaron has introduced a new star brand as of this issue, and the last arc has been a big lead up to the introduction of a new star brand. The star brand from the former New Universe was killed off during the big Marvel launch book. What was it called? Roddykat, if you remember.
It's freaking.
I know, right? Well, I mean, it was that big like $10 one shot.
The 1000 or the 1001?
No, it was before that.
Right, it was from like 2 years ago now, I think.
Right, and I totally can't remember now.
Right, but ultimately, this has been foreshadowed for a while. You know, the return of a star brand for Earth. You know, since I forgot, his name was Ken something, I think, but the New Universe star brand was killed off, and this issue basically explains a lot of our questions, as in how did this human female heavy with child come to find herself in a Shi'ar prison, imbued with the star brand.
Marvel Legacy, that's what it was.
Ah, there it is. So this really did fill in a lot of the gaps, and I thought it was a pretty effective way of finishing this particular arc and filling in those holes. And it also decided to throw in some allegory as well. This is what we were talking about just before the show.
Yeah. So yeah, and as we said before the show, we kind of called something that was going to happen, you know, because of everything going on with the Star brand and the coming of it. Sadly, but you know, that's kind of the way things go in comics.
Right.
Shouldn't always, but hey, it's
right.
But,
I was going to say minor spoilers. We get very Padme Amidala on this, so
other things, yeah,
right. But there's a couple of
there's definitely another Christmas, let's say a Christmas type vibe, with the exception of that it ended slightly different.
Oh, you're absolutely correct. I was jumping ahead of that. There's definitely three wise heralds moment in this issue. There's also a fun little moment where you know, there's a bunch of things going on, and She-Hulk and Captain America have to deal with it. And She-Hulk, in her inner monologue, is like, well, you know, there's Cap in the middle of all this insanity with nothing but a shield. It's a good thing he's Captain America. I just kind of laughed.
Yeah, it's like during the midst of all this combat and everything else is going on, he's probably actually have the birth a child in the midst of combat, and then of course Steve is like, hey, I'm Captain America, I've done this before.
Pretty much. So
but yeah, then I don't know if so. Just to get to one little point, when Ghost Rider comes in, he says he's like he can get the kid and whatever the mom and the kid back home, and then he recites this thing that I think people have learned in school. I don't remember this particular verse, but it doesn't still play nowadays.
Well, it leaves out Pluto.
Well, yeah.
I mean, there's contention in the scientific community over that, but yeah, that's essentially how I read that.
So I'm sitting here like, okay, that thing happened, but eventually the long and the short of it is like we do have the new star brand, and now the Avengers are babysitters.
Right. There's definitely an interesting cliffhanger with this. I think that the Black Panther says it best. He has the last line of the story, and it really did land with some weight because no one knows what the new status for this character, this new star brand wielder, is going to be going forward. So it's definitely going to be interesting. And actually, we go back to one of the dangling plot threads that Jason Aaron has left out there in the next issue. It's going to be pretty much a dedicated Iron Man issue. So we won't see this new star brand for at least another month.
Well, I have a feeling they will probably like they did with this one, or like they've done in the past. It was like the last couple of pages will be like, okay, yeah, but hey, this is still going on, and while this is going on, and this part still kind of bothers me because especially with what's going on, well, what has just gone on with Iron Man recently,
right, with the 2020 story,
right? So I'm sitting here like, okay, so clearly, I think as far as we know, this is still the AI one, but the one that shows up in 2020 is also still that same one. So clearly he must have come back at some point, or at some point we will have to have some kind of timeline. I mean, I know there's one in the back of Iron Man 2020, but still, there's still something weird about it.
Right. I don't think it incorporates this story in it. So
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, that was Avengers 20. It was pretty good this week.
It was good. It was a potential click of the week pick for me because of just the way the story unfolded.
There's also a weird immigration parallel going on in the midst of all this, and I'm like, Aaron, I don't know what you've been on to lately, but
I forgot. I forgot that second like allegorical, like headlines, based in the real world stuff. The migrant worker aspect of the story that was that was incorporated into the story of this Earthling who found her way into the Shi'ar side of space.
Right, because that was a big question.
Right, and it was there like we were saying earlier, there's plenty of allegory in this story.
Yeah, he packed a lot in his joint. I'm like,
real world parallels. There's a lot to it. Seriously, really good potential click of the week for me.
Yeah. So from that, we will go into we'll go ahead and get this Justice League thing out of the way, since it's fresh on you gentlemen's minds. So if you want to go ahead and take that away.
After you, Dirt.
It's weird.
Yes.
I expected a little stronger from you. I don't know why.
Like, what the hell am I reading?
Okay,
here?
but here's the thing. This has been ongoing in this book for a while. Like, this book has not made sense for at least, I'd say, 12 to 15 issues of this current storyline. And there's been some cool stuff where it's like, hey, the multiverse stuff and, the manipulation of the timelines and all this stuff. And it kind of feels in a lot of ways like you're getting a lot more of what Doomsday Clock should have been in this story, because you get a lot of this, changing the timeline and changing, grabbing this from another, parallel universe and feeding it in and, whatever. But at the same time, this whole like, everyone believes in doom or everyone believes in hope. And if they believe in hope, then you get the Justice League of America cartoon symbol in the sky, or you get something that was like on a doorknob in like the 4th issue of the series is in the sky. And if you get the doorknob, it's a problem. But if you get the cartoon headquarters of the Justice League, then it's okay.
Well, I was about to say you get what it is that you get
the headquarters.
Right, you get a simulacrum of the Legion of Doom headquarters instead.
Right. And I guess the thing is that they started doing this a long time ago, and at a certain point, you either just kind of go with it or you give up on it. And I decided to just kind of stick it out because I liked the multiverse stuff and I wanted to see where that was going and the timeline and everything. And it's weird because with Doomsday Clock supposedly changed stuff, but didn't really.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, well, where does this play out? And then you wonder how does that tie into this? And you don't really see a connection, but there's got to be some sort of thing going on there. But it reminds me a lot of Final Crisis, the Grant Morrison one, where Darkseid unleashes the anti-life equation and corrupts all of Earth. And so in order to save the universe, Superman has to wish it through the thoughts of singing a song into a magical machine in order to write everything in the world. And it was one of those, it's a Grant Morrison story. So again, you either have to go along with it or you just give up on it. And this kind of feels like that same type of thing where it's just like, if the people believe, then everything's going to be great. And if they don't, it's all going to fall apart. And then we get this ending, which, I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't read it, but we get this ending that's just kind of like I guess the Justice League doesn't exist anymore, but there's this door to every possibility that has ever been imagined in the history of all time. And now they're going to jump through and Justice League's getting a new writer. So,
right, and I think that's what frustrated me the most, knowing that this was going to be Snyder's swan song on the title,
and it doesn't really end.
Exactly, and it's a new story in the next issue. We don't get the continuation to this. The continuation to this, I believe, is the recently announced and the teased at the end of this issue, Snyder and Capulo series. Isn't that right?
That's what I took away from it also.
Right,
that they are. What did it say here on this page anyway? Get ready for the encore. Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo. The mayhem is imminent. And a picture of some wacky Wonder Woman,
right,
from the multiverse. So,
right, with a chainsaw sword.
Well, and it looks
very
like
Evil Dead.
The ripcord from the chainsaw is her magic lasso,
right?
Somehow. So, yeah.
So see, the thing is, the sighing, the heavy sighing, the frustrated, sounds. That's exactly what I was feeling, and I just didn't. I wanted to hear somebody else's take on this because Roddy said he hadn't read it yet. So
skimming through it now.
Right, I'm not alone.
Yeah, and it's the problem is it could possibly be something really cool when it gets there.
Right.
The problem is there are absolutely no breadcrumbs that you can really follow because it loses logic as part of the storyline. Like part of the storyline is the universe falls apart, so things don't make sense. So this other random stuff is happening. And again, it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to go along and hope that it eventually turns into something cool. Because there's the making of a lot of cool stuff here. Mm-hmm. There are pieces of something that could really be awesome, but it could also be something that just kind of fizzles out, like Doomsday Clock,
right? Where
you thought it was building up to something great, and in the end, it was building up to the Watchmen universe gets a Superman. And okay,
right,
great.
And the only other thing that happens is that they become one of the Earths.
Right. Well, yeah. And somehow it's supposed to relaunch the history of the Justice Society and all of that stuff into the main DC Universe timeline. So it undoes the New 52 and Flashpoint, but it kind of doesn't seem like it did because we don't see it. And again, that's
Well, we
like
haven't seen
Metal.
it yet, right.
Metal was the same way, where you have this dark universe and it's cracking through and everything's getting corrupted, and then they win because they fought a Hawkman with an anvil in the -1 universe. And then everything's fine, except that the Joker who laughs is still around.
Yeah, the Batman who laughs, yeah.
The Batman who laughs, yeah, and it's
That's a lot there. Yeah.
yeah, and Batman and Superman communicated by singing heavy metal riffs to each other somehow through the vein of the multiverse. Like what? Like
Yeah.
And that was a Snyder too, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so Snyder, like, here's the thing. This is honestly what I think happened. Snyder moved. Okay, I don't know this for real, but this is what I'm assuming. He moved recently, or he moved like probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and wherever he moved, he lives above some sort of like holistic medicine store, but he didn't realize that's what it was. So he went down, like he was making a pizza one night, and he's like, I need some mushrooms, so he bought some mushrooms, but he didn't realize that they were that kind of mushrooms from the holistic medicine store. And I think.
Wait, you make that joke, but isn't he in Portland like with a whole bunch of other of comic creators?
Dude, if he's in Portland, then that explains a lot right there. I mean, that
I don't know that for sure, but I'm like, if that's the case, you may be on something more.
So I literally think he's been tripping balls for like 4 years, and just really at this point, he like when he sits, he probably licks the computer for a half hour before he types anything.
Oh no!
So anyway, I'm gonna give it a chance and see if it turns out like I'm still reading it. Like I haven't dropped it yet, like a lot of other books. So I'm gonna give it a chance and see where it goes.
Oh, you're gonna stick with Justice League after with the new,
especially with Vendetti coming on. Like
okay.
I like a lot of his stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely.
I'm off. I need a break because I'm just looking at it like I read Justice League much for much the same reasons that I used to read Avengers as a kid. This is my dose of, the Justice League, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and friends, the Super Friends, basically. So this is my my dose of them, so I don't have to pick up their individual issues. But if I am this frustrated reading the book, it's not worth my time.
Well, yeah, but you're getting a whole new story now.
Possibly.
So now you'll get one that makes sense.
Possibly.
You won't have to do mushrooms to follow the story. Next month.
We would hope. So I finished kind of skimming this Justice League, and for some strange reason, that last part where they're going through the door just reminded me when the X-Men got killed and came back, in Australia.
Mm. It was right, but they actually had Claremont actually had some finality on the last page of that story.
Well,
at the end of Fall of the Mutant.
Well, yeah, but I think in Snyder's mind, the ending of this issue is the doors are open and there's a world of possibility out there, right. And the universe is whatever we want to make it, and it's supposed to be like this upbeat kind of, anything's possible, and instead we're like what the hell story are you trying to tell us?
Yeah, like where is this going? So,
and here's another question. I know Luthor is showing up in either Action or Superman, one of the two. Does that have anything to do with what's? I mean, I know he's kind of in the same form he's in now, so I don't.
I was gonna say
with this.
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
Because in that one we've got Lex Luthor and Brainiac, right. Whereas the one that's in here is the Luthor Brainiac Apex Predator.
Oh no, Luthor Martian Manhunter. See, the thing is,
no, but they were Brainiac, and then they added in Martian Manhunter.
Oh, okay. But my understanding was that he saw, like, I forget what recent comic it was, where he still resembled the form where he had incorporated Martian Manhunter, and I think now they're slowly going to go away from that now that this issue's finally come out.
Mm.
So.
Well, I just know in the Action that was out this week, he just looks back to regular bald.
Normal. Okay, I haven't read this week's Action comics yet. So,
but again, with the way everything is in the DC universe right now, I honestly couldn't tell you if he was the Green Brainiac Martian Manhunter in the last issue, and in this issue they just like, whoop, it's gone, and just totally ignored it. I can't, like, there's so many different things going on. I can't remember which plot line is from which book and what's technically supposed to be current and what ties in where with everything else.
Yeah, I want to say it was in the Superman book.
From 2 weeks ago,
Yeah, I want
or
to
last week, maybe, whatever.
Yeah, or it might have been the one immediately before that when they initially started the whole secret identity reveal.
Mm.
So maybe in comic publishing time, they were still melded together in the Justice League book. But either way, at this point, like you said, it's too hard to describe. It's too hard to explain.
Yeah.
Comics.
Well, and that goes back. I mean, let's jump to Action real quick because that also came out this week.
Okay.
This was severely underwhelming for me.
Okay.
For a book called Action Comics, it's 90% dialogue, and I'm honestly getting ready to drop Superman in Action, which is something that the last time I dropped Superman in Action was because I was a college student that had no money. And once I got a job in the real world and had money again, I was back to buying them. But there was that small little window. Otherwise, I have bought all of these since Crisis on Infinite Earths. And I'm looking at them now, the last couple issues of Superman, the last couple issues of Action Comics, going, maybe I'm not going to be buying these until Bendis is gone. Because I am not a fan of anything that's happening in these books. Generally speaking, I haven't read an issue that Bendis has done where I'm like, ooh, I want to read that again. Like some of the other books that come out every week.
This is issue 1019, right?
Yeah, 1019. And
Okay.
1019 is...
I was just going to mention, hold that thought. The cover still seems to have, is that just Luthor and Brainiac, or is that...
That's why I was asking that. Yeah.
Leviathan is the guy who's joining them now.
Right, no, but I'm talking about the form that Luthor is in. Is that him and Brainiac?
Oh, on the cover?
And not including Martian Manhunter? I can't tell.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, everything overlaps because everything's different.
Gotcha. Okay.
Let me look at this.
Yeah, I'm going to scroll through real quick and just check what
it is. Because, on the cover, that's him. But if I remember correctly, on the inside of the book, he's back to looking just like a regular bald dude.
Oh, yeah, I see it. You're right.
But I don't know. Again, that could be the John Romita Jr. artwork.
No, it's very clean. No, he's got a very clean appearance. So
yeah,
okay.
So like I said, things are in such disarray, and I'm not a fan of Bendis with these books, especially there's some books I think when he was doing Miles Morales. You put a lot of dialogue in those books because it's about a kid trying to fit in the world. So he talks about stuff because he's confused and he wants to know what's going on. And he talks to his buddy and they work stuff out. That makes sense.
That's not great, but yeah.
Well, but my point being is that a lot of dialogue works in a book like that.
Sure.
When you have a book called Action Comics and you only have 20 pages of story and 18 pages are nothing but word balloons, then you just kind of go what? Do you even realize?
Weirdly enough, he's kind of sort of restrained on Young Justice.
That may be because he thinks it's kids, and kids can't read that much.
I was about to say maybe that's David F. Walker's doing as well.
I would hope
that's a co-writing assignment. So
yeah, but yeah, I don't.
Yeah, Bendis might just plot it, but not actually write it.
I don't know. I think from last I checked,
they just share it, and I think having that extra writer,
he's got somebody to write him in. Yeah.
No.
So, perhaps. Anywho.
But yeah, very, very underwhelmed by by those books. And,
right. So, I mean, did they develop? I mean, I think I read the last issue where they revealed that, or 2 issues ago, where they revealed that Leviathan was teaming up with the remains of the Legion of Doom. That was the gist of from what I remember. Did anything develop along those lines in this issue?
In this issue, Leviathan explained, I guess, how his vision for taking over the world, I guess, and how he's been able to convince so many people. He kind of shows his plan.
Oh, okay. So he's monologuing, kind of?
Yeah, but it's... Once you found out who he was, that he was the old Manhunter, and you're like, oh, I forgot that was even a character. Right. It's like I didn't know he existed in the New 52. It's just kind of one of those things where it's like that's super underwhelming.
Hmm.
And then he shows you his plan, and he talks about his philosophy for how he's going to take over the world, and you're just kind of like I guess, but his villainous plans for world domination go, it's really not that great or evil, or it's just kind of like he's like a mediocre. He's like I am here as a solid C grade villain, and this is how I'm going to do things.
And that's like just been touching like Superman's books and not going anywhere. That's not anywhere else in the universe, is it?
Except for the Event Leviathan series,
right? What I'm saying, but it's basically just sticking to the Superman corner. So forth.
Yeah, it's again, it's weird. It's one of those things where, like, I think in one issue of Nightwing, there's like a throwaway line, like, "Well, you used to work for Spiral, and they don't exist anymore," and then that's the only mention it gets, And again, it's like, think about what's happening in Justice League.
Right.
Like, nothing that's happening in Justice League is affecting Batman or Superman or Wonder Woman or
anything else,
Flash or
anything else.
Right.
Well, right, because they haven't caught up with, and they haven't even caught up with the reveal yet.
They're not done yet.
Well, because it could be they if they undo everything, then the rest of the world never knows it ever happened.
I guess.
But that would be, then that would make it stupid. Then what's the point of doing that?
It would be terrible.
Like,
because this would be the whole point. Like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40, 50. Like,
right.
This is where your major crossover for the whole season starts, with a story like this, where everything's falling apart, everything's crumbling. So then you've got, Nightwing, and he's like, well, I don't have superpowers. I don't know how I'm supposed to fight against this evil, whatever, but I'm going to do what I can, and you have all those characters dealing with this major world changing event. Whereas nowadays it's like, you've got stuff in Justice League, no effect in Batman, no effect in Superman, no effect in Flash, no effect, like, it doesn't exist in any of these other books. And then when the story gets over, you might get a throwaway line in Flash in 3 months from now, where it's like, you were gone for a day. Well, I had a whole other universe to deal with. And it's like, see, Justice League issues 18 through 39, So I really feel like I understand that part of the deal with the New 52 was to kind of give artists and writers that free reign, and you can do what you want in your book, and it doesn't necessarily have to change what's happening in other people's books,
right.
And you're
like
free to tell your story.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like really, really annoying to have something that's supposedly gonna kill everybody and nobody cares about it in any other book. It's like if Superman's really going to be destroyed, I think then that should show up in the Superman book.
Right.
But
it's weird because it feels like DC at times tends to try to rein everything back in, only to just go out of their way to undo it again.
Like the only thing that would redeem, this would really redeem a lot to me, is if this story ends and you find out that this is actually Earth 17W, and then you're like, oh, so this was a different timeline, this is a different part of the multiverse where this thing was happening. That's why it's things can go crazy and it doesn't mess up other books.
But wasn't Perpetua's whole thing was like destroying? Okay.
Just take the mushrooms and go for the ride.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So just as my last thought on this is that it's frustrating from my perspective as someone who, as I mentioned before, is really who really only dabbles in the DC universe, and I try to keep up with those characters who meant a lot to us as kids, and I just want to follow along with their stories, and it's so frustrating to keep up with what's going on. And I'm sure it goes both ways. All those people who say they want to, jump into the Marvel universe, and now there's something big called Empire coming along, and there's a big lead up to it. But it's just been it's been a tough slog for me reading DC, and I've basically dropped the two DC books that I was picking up physically, Batman and Justice League. I may look at the Venditti book, as you mentioned, Dirt, when the next issue comes out, number 40.
Well, I like Batman now. Like now it's good. Like the last couple issues have been like,
I
all right.
was about to say the art on the last issue was kind of tough. It was more like a fill-in.
Wait, that's Tinian. You talking about the Tinian book?
Yeah, the Tinian book. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. Another thing that okay. So for instance, they've been doing a lot of these facsimile books. They've been doing the dollar books for a long time, but now we're getting the facsimiles where you're getting the book as it was. It's just printed on nice paper and whatnot. And it's funny because I'm reading through these and it's like you forget how much story was actually in a single issue. And they go, well, they've had to cut the page sizes so there aren't as many pages because paper's more expensive and everything, but they've made the books more expensive.
Right.
Go back to newsprint. Go back to a cheap, slick paper cover that just wraps around to hold everything together, and go back to 40 pages, and fill it with story. Do 23 pages of one story and a 16-page backup. Fill it with a bunch of ads. I don't care. I'll look through ads of Grit newspaper again. It doesn't make any difference to me. But it's like, if you look any magazine on the newsstand, because they always refer to themselves as magazines, right? Because these are comic magazines. And, Stan Lee would always talk about our mags on the shelf. If you look through any magazine, Cosmo or Good Housekeeping or, whatever it is, like 2/3 is ads. And that's how they keep the prices down to $4.99 for this thick phone book of a magazine anymore. And it's like, just fill it with more ads, go back to really cheap paper, because to me, I don't feel like there's that much more enjoyment off super slick, shiny paper with high gradient computer coloring. If I pick up an Alterna comic that's on newsprint, that's done with like a basic watercolor set, which is how they did the old colors. They just brush on the colors with the watercolor and put an overlay of the inks on it and send it out to get printed. I'm not less entertained by it being on cheap paper with weaker coloring. It's the story and good, and the artwork is still good, even if it's not on super slick, high density paper. So it's like I sit down with one of these and it'll take 20 minutes to read through one of these books. There's so much going on. There's so much packed in there. I sit down with one of these books and it takes 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes, and that's if you kind of slow down and absorb it. On a lot of the Superman, Tom King, or Batman, the Tom King Batman books, it's like a lot of those, it's just poetry on top of pictures of Thomas Wayne Batman punching people. So it's like, okay, yeah, all right, got it, and then you're done with the book.
All right.
Like, it feels like there's so little there in a lot of those books.
I just wanted to add one thing before we move on. You still have your copy of Justice League Open, correct?
Well, it's in my bag of board. Come on now.
I noticed the paper in there wasn't slick. Did you notice that?
Well, it's got a coating to it. You can tell that it's still got it's not shiny, but there is like a matte finish.
Right. It's a matte finish. And I noticed that specifically. I was like, wait, this feels different. This looks different. Because I'm not a DC reader. I don't know if DC switched papers or not. I mentioned that because I actually felt the difference. Now, I would just give a counterpoint in that I do enjoy staring at and absorbing the art and coloring in books. And I've made a point over the course of our podcast that I've gained more appreciation for the work that colorists do and the effect that computer coloring and the increased color gradients that they have access to, the effect that has had on my experience with comics, and I think with the overall comic book art experience. But I definitely understand your point in that the whole decompressed storytelling style, together with them trying to milk us for every dollar that we have, well, they
write for the trade. Really
exactly what I was going to say is they're trying to milk as much money out of the Wednesday Warriors as possible. They know they're not getting the new walk-ins as much as they used to, or the newsstand sales that they used to. So they're milking all of the Wednesday Warriors for the little money that they have. And as you said, writing for the trade so that they can go try to get money from that other form of distribution. So, my point, the I guess the only point I can make off that is I definitely understand your frustration, but I don't think that going the cheap paper route is really going to help.
Well, but it's like I just had to Google this. Dave Stewart. Dave Stewart was the colorist on Hellboy. And if you go back and look at Hellboy when it first started back in the mid 90s, when he was still doing it in the old style and he was the colorist on that book, he did a fantastic job of coloring
with what he had.
But he kept it very basic. Mm-hmm. And so it added to the tension, it added to the mood, it added to the feel of the artwork. If you look at Mike Mignola's black and white artwork, like I love his line work. I think he's a tremendous artist. But then you add that coloring, even though most of it was very flat, it still added a lot of feel to it because it was the right coloring for the right artwork. Whereas I feel like nowadays, it doesn't matter who the artist is. It doesn't matter if they're someone who does a lot of strong line work, if there's someone who's very sketchy and rough, if it's someone who's just kind of loose and dynamic, they all get colored the same, and it looks like a video game. It's all super bright and gradient from 0 to 300 in every unit that's being colored. It's no longer the right art for the right artist. It's you turn in your pages and then it goes through that modern colorization process, which is to basically overdo everything. It's J.J. Abrams, the comic art, where instead of lens flares on everything, it's just that style of everything being over colorized with the right colorist and the right artist. That can work for someone who's like a really intense illustrative style, who does a lot of detail and does a lot of thin little line work, and you have all of this stuff kind of adding to the weight and the shape of what it is that they're drawing. It can really be great. But at the same time, with a lot of artists, they don't need you don't need X-Force colors on Batman. They should be two different distinct color palettes.
Of course.
And so many times, though, it feels like they're not. It feels like they're getting the same thing. But I do have Terrifics here. I haven't read it yet, so I can't talk about it, but I did flip through it real quick. This is what most that I remember of DC paper. It is shinier, but it's thinner. It's a lot thinner.
So it is different it's different from the Justice League paper.
Right. And I think the thicker books, when they do annuals and they do like 40-page, I think this is an oversized on the Justice League, I think. It's a thicker paper, but it has a matte finish, whereas these are very thin. These are almost like, this is like the original copy of the King James Bible. It's like the thin, tiny onion skin pages, but then coated with that plastic coating to make them stronger. Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty.
Anyway.
Real quick. I wanted to ask a question. I don't know if either one of you would be able to answer this. Going back to the fact some of the things. Do either one of you know the rhyme or reason as to why they do the issues, or why they put out the issues that they do? Because some of it seems kind of random.
Usually, it's the same formula as the dollar ones, the True Believers or the DC Dollar Comics. They tie into a trade or collection that's coming out. So usually,
or a movie.
or a movie. But like in this case, I believe this is in the new showcase that's coming out for Fantastic Four.
Is that leading up to Empire, maybe?
I thought about that, but it was like,
well, the reason why I mentioned it is that I know that I was looking at the April solicits and going over my pull list, and I noticed that they're doing a facsimile of Wolverine first appearance, Wolverine early appearances in April. So I'm not sure what that's supposed to come out with.
Because there's
more coming out though, so.
Yeah, there's a regular Wolverine and I Wolverine, which is part of the 2020 lineup.
Right. No, but my point is, these facsimiles is just kind of weird. Like, oh, we're doing not the first, we're doing the second full appearance of Wolverine, and we're doing we're actually doing the comic, a facsimile of the comic that had an ad in it that actually featured the first ad that featured Wolverine. I was like, wow, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they usually have some tie-in to some collected series or some new series being launched or something.
Right.
Yeah, there's because a lot of times, especially on the True Believers, you'll see that it's like Avengers 217, and you're like 217. There's nothing special about this, but you'll see on the very last page it'll say, read the whole story in the new Avengers trade paperback. Whatever pre-Korvac Wars coming, to comic shops now.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay. No, I was curious. All right. So one more book, I guess, before we hit the rapid fires. If you got one. Yeah. Actually, wait a minute. Doctor Strange. Did you read that, Dirt?
No.
You hadn't?
I haven't read the new series at all. I haven't.
Okay.
It's actually not bad so far. Actually, let me write this down while I'm thinking about it. But Doctor Strange, Surgeon Supreme, number 2. So I don't wait. Do you plan on reading it?
No.
Okay. So basically, if you read the last series, you know that he got his hands back. So now he's decided, hey, I'm gonna be a surgeon and also be the Surgeon Supreme in a nutshell. So he's working at the hospital and as on the side. And for some strange reason, Dr. Druid is back, as we come to find out, and this issue has them talking. Which is kind of a weird conversation in itself, because he doesn't know why he comes back. So do you know there's something sketchy going on, or you feel like there's something sketchy going on that they may get into? He lost a fight. Doctor Strange lost a fight with the Wrecker last issue, so now he's regrouping from that and he's back to his forge. Mixing stuff up. Some people likened it to Tony Stark for some reason, but I guess I kind of sort of see that comparison. I don't like his assistant. Bring back Zelma Stanton.
She's got something else going on.
Huh?
She's got something else going on.
I know. Which, yeah, the one that's supposed to be a preview of, if you're talking about the Strange Academy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was supposed to be a preview of that, but maybe I missed it or I didn't see it.
Oh, it's in the physical book.
That's what I thought. Yeah, because so basically this month there's a couple of this week actually you'll see some in the physical books. There's Strange Academy preview, but it's not in the digital stuff, which is upsetting because I want to see what that was. But yeah, if you pick it up physical, then you'll see that stuff. But overall, this issue was actually fairly decent. He basically, well, with the exception of one thing I have a slight issue with, and that was, where the record goes.
Thunderball.
Yes, that's what I'm getting to. Where the record goes, one of the other crew happens to come back in place, and this time it's Thunderball, which I'm like, he was over in Wakanda chilling and trying to get his life together, and now they got him. They do this every now and then. I kind of hate that. This is where it's like, oh, now he's back to being bad again.
Like they could have chosen any like Wade could have chosen either of the other two members of the Wrecking Crew.
Right.
He chose Thunderball, who was supposed to be on a path of redemption in Wakanda, working with T'Challa and some of the other science guys. So yeah, I definitely was frustrated by that. I also got a kick out of this issue. Some of the detective work that Strange had to do in order to deduce what was going on, like how the Wrecker was able to so handily best him the first time, because he wasn't dealing with the original Asgardian magic surrounding his original crowbar, which had basically created or bestowed some powers upon the rest of the Wrecking Crew. So, these are now like super enhanced or actually totally new pieces of equipment. And I think that's where the mystery starts to unfold.
Mm-hmm. And he's basically going to be found out. Yeah, he comes across the fact that, hey, somebody's doing magic, as it says in the book, magical gun running. So somebody's getting, artifacts and selling them on the black market or something like that. So he's going to get to the bottom of who's going to be doing that. And it seemed like part of it looks like it's coming from his own forge, if that one panel has any indication. But yeah, like I said, he's Doc's trying to do two things at once, and at some point I assume that's going to collide. But so far right now he's just kicking some butt and going up against folks that he hadn't really fought before.
What I like about this, and this will be my last thought on it. What I like about this book and this concept and the conceit of the book is that we've never seen this before.
Right.
We honestly have not seen this type of story in Doctor Strange where he's actually trying to fulfill the surgeon part of his title, because obviously before he didn't have the use of his hands. Now we're seeing that, as well as him really exploring different aspects of being the Sorcerer Supreme. So it's really a very interesting story, I think, that's going to unfold, and I'm really digging Kev Walker's art on this.
Yeah, same here. So yeah, the last couple of years have definitely been pretty good to Doctor Strange. We can safely say, bringing them up to this point. So hopefully that continues. And with that, unless anyone else has another book they wanna talk about.
Yeah, let me talk about Olympia here for a minute.
Sure.
So this has been a series from Image, and the basic concept is there's this kid who is reading a comic called Olympia on Earth, I guess, and it's a Jack Kirby-esque outer space, new gods, fighting with these super machines and whatever. And you're looking at it and you're like, okay, this is very much, a Jack Kirby type thing. And at the end of the first issue, the main character, Olympia, who's the star of this book, lands on Earth, like crash lands on Earth. He doesn't know how he got there. He doesn't know, what's going on, whatever. And the kid is trying to help him, adjust to the world. And they realize that the comic creator of this book actually lives not far away from where they are. So they're going to go on and actually find this guy and try to figure out, why is he here? Like, does he have any idea? Does he know how his creation, came to be real? But the book, the story itself is fun. It has that kind of, 80s kid discovery, going on a journey, type of stuff. If you ever saw any of those movies where it's, I can't think of the name of it now, but it was like,
Hero.
What's that?
Last Action Hero.
Well, I was thinking more like there was one where it's like the Russian soldier lands on the U.S. soil, but he doesn't want to fight America. He wants to get away from the other Russians, and so he's hiding out with the kid. I can't think of what it was called.
Wow.
But anyway, it's just one of those type things where it's not really like a life or death type situation. It's just more about the journey and the fun and the whatever. But the book itself is full of so many comic book references. They go talk to a guy and he's in a drugstore, and the drugstore is the Spiegelman drugstore. The comic creator is thinking back to his career and the things that he's done. And there's two different plot lines going on here. And when he thinks back, the guy who taught him everything looked like Jack Kirby. Like smoking a cigar all the time, hunched over the drawing table, with the old man flat top haircut like Jack Kirby always had. Like, the book is full of, you'll see names, Schuster will pop up and Siegel will pop up and
Toth.
Yeah. His name pops up there. It's one of those things where if you're not into comics and you don't get any of those references, it's still like this super fun story of the kid and this superhero who's come into the real world, and the non fantastic world of being a comic book creator and struggling to make deadlines and trying to pay your rent and, all of that kind of stuff, where at the same time, story with good artwork to bide you with. But if you do catch all these references, you realize like how much these people love comics that are putting it together, and you can see that there's a lot of showing the other side of what it's like being an actual comic creator, where it's you have this fantastic, at the same time you have this realistic, and the two of them are smashing into each other in this series. So I really enjoy it. I like it a lot, and it's one of those that I hope a lot more people will pay attention to, maybe as it goes along, or when it finally gets collected or whatever. I hope it finds an audience.
Yeah, when you told us about it earlier, it definitely seemed like it was had an interesting premise to it. Might check this out actually. And I flashed for those watching the video. I flashed a little bit of the it's on Comixology also, so I flashed a little bit of the covers in the issue. Okay, well, if anybody else got anything, then let's go to rapid fire.
Spin it up.
I'll go ahead and try to knock mine out. Quantum of Woody #1. So yeah, Quantum of Woody are back, folks. And I haven't been keeping up with what their last couple of volumes, but apparently they were still on the run as of the beginning of this book. And Woody, in his finite wisdom, has been having visions that have been coming true. And one of those, or a couple of those visions, kind of looks like they may have gotten them out of the troubles with the law they were in during the course of this issue. But what he's been saying, he's been training, but there seems to be more to it, and there's some things else going on to it. But it was still a relatively fun read. It was kind of, I guess, a little more straightforward than their books usually are, but it was actually a good read with some fairly decent art. There was a lot going on in a couple spots, but it was the two schlubby heroes as you know them. So if you are interested in that and know of Quantum of Woody, you can check that out from the good folks at Valiant, which is the first time I've read a Valiant book in a way long time. Hawkeye Freefall #2. So for some strange reason, as we said last time, Clint is dating Night Nurse, one of them, and they're going out on a date. And the long and the short of this one is that there's someone going around in the Ronin costume, and everybody who's come across him has been coming up to Clint saying, "Hey, somebody's dressing up as you. Is this you?" And he's like, "Nah, it's not me." Well, we come to find out that at the end of this book, spoiler alert, it might actually be him, because for some strange reason he's been, if it is the case, then he's been putting his ruse together for some odd reason. Rosenberg had him sell his apartment building from Fraction Run.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I was exactly, that was kind of, I legit had that thought. I'm like, why'd you do that? So because that comes into play in this book and a couple other things, and there's a couple of people show up because they're at this charity for Feast. So who comes into play on that one, right? And in addition, Tony Stark, and the two people you would expect to. But it was a pretty decent read. Okay, not sure what that was, but
it was definitely not the door of my house opening and my wife coming in. I tell you that much.
Okay. No problem. I'm like, whoa, but yeah, like I said, it's whatever is going to come out of that revelation, and I guess his motivations for it. My thinking was like, wait, is Barney back in the scene and he's going undercover as Slender or something like that? Who knows? But regardless, this is, I suppose, leading somewhere. We don't know what. And there's a thing also with the Hood, who's been a thing in Hawkeye's side because of the first issue. But like I said, it's been a fairly decent read so far. Wait, we already talked about that, so back that up. Avengers of the Wasteland #1. So this takes place in the time of Old Man Logan, or I think sometime after that. For some strange reason, Daniel Cage has the Hammer of Thor, And I only say that because we know supposedly at some point she ends up being Captain America.
Different continuity, different reality.
Nothing in this one. If certain, well, regardless, it so there's been things in the past that have made it seem like it's going to be in this reality also. I know what you're saying, but something made, which may still actually come true, but probably not, because at the end of this issue, Captain America shows up. But that's neither here nor there, which is weird because considering from what I know of the Old Man Logan era type stuff, all of the heroes are dead, and I thought including him, but maybe not. But regardless, so it's basically Daniel Cage, a Bruce Banner's son, who is the Hulk, and some guy who had the Ant-Man armor, who were still left. Like basically Daniel Cage and this Hulk, the Hulk's kid, are basically trying to live peacefully, and then whoever this dude is, which I think is Night Thrasher, I'm not even entirely sure who that guy is. You know, he comes back into play because something that happened 2 years earlier with Doctor Doom, who's I guess was the big deal in that whole universe. I still haven't read there's reference to Dead Man Logan. Never read that. I read a little bit of Old Man Logan, but I still don't know too much about that. Which before we were talking about Marvel Unlimited, and I think that would be one of the research things I was talking about. And I did read a little bit of Old Man Hawkeye, which takes place before this. I think so. Yeah, because there's some things come into play, but there's a whole lot going on here. But if you know anything about the Old Man Logan universe and the subsequent books around that, including apparently Dead Man Logan, it takes place around that time. And basically, there may be a plot to get Doom going on in this particular book because of events that are happening. Whether that plays out or not, we shall see. Immortal Hulk number 30. I know you've read that.
I did.
70. If you got yeah, this, like we were saying earlier, this was an alright issue. Nothing like groundbreaking happens in it. Like this is basically the big fight book, not necessarily the big fight book, but because last issue the Hulk got dropped into one of the monsters' mouths that that came up as of last issue, and he was trying to fight his way out, but doing that let loose a whole bunch of little monsters, and he's getting pinned he's getting that pinned on him because of it.
What I was just going to add is, just as a quick recap, the Minotaur, Dario Agger, and Roxxon are basically on a mission of revenge, and they're trying to really discredit what the Hulk is doing.
Yeah.
Because the Hulk has really been targeting Roxxon. So they're the source of these monsters. And, there's a lot of, machinations, backroom machinations going on in terms of what Dario Agger is looking to do. And that's described in this issue. We catch up with Gamma Flight in this issue. They had been kind of off the board for a little while, but they're back. We also essentially find out what the new team of Hulks is doing to combat this monster attack unleashed by Roxxon. So that's really where we find ourselves in this issue. And as Roddykat said, there's some blame being misassigned. At this time, there's going to be plenty of time to assign blame at a later date for all parties responsible for this fiasco. I'm quoting Ronnie Chang's comedy special here on Netflix for anyone who's interested. And the splash, the cliffhanger page at the end of the book reveals a character that many will not be familiar with, but he's actually the first character to be called Hulk in the Marvel Universe. So that's an interesting cliffhanger to leave the end of the story with.
Wait, is that including the Starbrand / Hulk thing that's in Avengers? Or that Amelia and BC stuff?
No, I'm talking about publishing.
Oh. Okay.
Not Marvel timeline stuff.
Sure.
Publishing. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Moving right along. Did you read Tarot number 2?
No.
Okay. Well, that story continues. Diablo. So at first I wasn't really sure what exactly this is supposed to tie in, but I think I kind of got it once you read in the middle of it, because So Diablo is basically an old well, it's a new story that's supposed to be an old set in a classic time of Avengers and Defenders. And Diablo is basically taking control of a couple of a bunch of them steadily during the course of the thing, and that gets kind of undone during the course of this without going through it. King somehow comes into play or for a cameo. And the reason why I said there was supposedly that maybe something is coming out of it because Doctor Strange is in here because he's a part of the Defenders of the time. But during the course of the fight, something happens where he ends up disappearing, or at least at the end of it, because of because of a couple of items that Diablo has in his possession, and he gets lost in what seems to be a multiverse. That may be a multiverse of madness. Possibly. If you see the pages that I'm referencing, you will get a little bit more of that. So I'm thinking that may or may not be a slight nod to the movie coming out. That is me speculating this. I don't know if that's the case, but I can't think of anything else that would, unless something in this this story is going to tie into something. Or maybe it's not, but I feel like there's something that's going to tie into something that's coming along because they don't do this stuff just for nothing. But regardless, there seems to be some potential time shenanigans also going on because not just because of the fact that King shows up, but we will see what's going on next issue of that. Star Wars #2, I believe you also read.
I did read this.
So yeah, so this is set after Empire Strikes Back. As we have noted last issue, Lando's using his charms as he tends to do. So he's getting, he's doing his thing. The rebellion's kind of out there. So after last issue, we find out that the rebellion's secret codes may have been hijacked, and that's how they may have been found. So they can't communicate with their other selves, which in this issue kind of made me think that, well, it seems like this is where Star Wars Rebels would come in, except for Rebels is kind of set before this. So
right.
That's not necessarily the case. But some of it seemed familiar because as of this point, well, the rebellion can't talk to each other, so they're on their own. So now they kind of have to do their thing separate and hopefully try to figure out how to get connected with the other cells or come across the other cells at some point. But until then, they're basically going to strike out on their own until they figure that out. And of course, Luke's the bigger thing of the issue, which we may be finding out what actually happened to where Luke gets his lightsaber back because
Or doesn't.
Or doesn't. Yeah, who knows? Because so that whole last page was a whole thing. Because I'm like, anyway,
heck of a cliffhanger. So I just wanted to add very quickly to this book. I'm enthusiastic about reading this because these are the stories I always wanted to know.
You've said that.
Beforehand, and I wanted to remind everybody that this is, I think, the more intriguing story, not necessarily the story between episodes 4 and 5, but the stories between 5 and 6, between Empire and Return of the Jedi. So just as a quick reminder of what stories could potentially be told in this book.
Right, because there are potential things, some of which I think have already been answered in one-shot books. But yeah, there's a good bit between this timeline, between 5 and 6, that people are curious about. One of which was, how did Luke get his lightsaber back? Which
he doesn't.
I'm just saying.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Or how Maz Kanata comes into position.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Because some of that stuff in the newest that came up in the movies had to come from somewhere, and people were questioning this and that and the other before that. This may or may not give any answers to that one way or the other. That's all.
We're still early on in the process.
Yeah. So if that is a curiosity, you may want to check this out. And then of course we get, like I said, Lando's early dealings with the rebellion, and I guess leading up to what happens in Return of the Jedi. And my last book is New Mutants #6, which you also read. Actually, technically, I skimmed this and you actually read this.
Right. I mean, ultimately, what we have here is the resolution of the Ed Brisson branch of the story that deals with Beak. I forget the his wife's name. I know what her powers are, but I forget her code name.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know. They basically call her Angel. I mean, Angel is
Right,
right.
it is Angel. That's right. It's Angel. So Beak and Angel and their kids. Just the gist of the story is that some made up country has a cartel and they're looking to get in on the mutant drug stuff, and they have taken Beak and Angel's family hostage, and the Krakoan response is feeble, and basically a group of supremely inexperienced New Mutants. Essentially, the New Mutants book concentrates on the OG New Mutants and the student level mutants that we've come to see over the past several years, including New X-Men and Generation X and so on. So basically, they are tasked with dealing with these cartel gang members who are extremely well equipped and and basically leave scars on, and leave pretty deep wounds, actually, literally and figuratively, on the members of this New Mutant squad that have gone in. And the highlight of the book are those two little weird French mutants, the Gray Kids, Manon and Maxine, I think their names are.
Yes.
And it's just creepy as hell. So it's
and they've basically been violating. Let's just say they've been violating the new Krakoan credences kind of left and right.
Right. So ultimately, this issue is, and basically this arc is has been, the last two issues at least of this arc have been studies on those two characters and what Brisson is planning to do with them, and how he's planning to use the other story arcs in New Mutants to explore these characters. So
wait a minute. These characters are mutants.
Mhm.
They're weird and they're French. So they've got no chance whatsoever in today's society.
Hey, apparently Aurora and Northstar got away with it for as long
no,
as
but they're Quebecois. They're from Quebec, so it's a little,
Oh, so that's even worse.
yeah,
a little different.
They're probably smuggling cigarettes without the tax stamp on them.
So yeah, I really hope that thing with well, specifically with them and what they did with Beak and the rest of them will come up again, because we know that the other stuff is definitely going to have to come up.
Right. There's some heavy foreshadowing at the end of the book. So
yeah, because apparently and even the bad guy in the issue before his departure was like, yeah, this is gonna put a mark on you guys, and the whole world's gonna know, and the world's gonna know about it, basically.
pretty much.
So, and the mutants already are fighting on different fronts. What's one more, right?
Mhm.
So, but so yeah, that is all of my books.
All right, I will speed through my books. Captain America #18. We get some resolution to the recent Scourge storyline, but we see that there may be more to it, and it involves one John Walker, aka US Agent. We're also maybe a step closer to finding out who the head of the Daughters of Liberty is.
Boo!
Right, that's the boo for John Walker, I know.
No. No.
John Walker sucks. So John Walker sucks. But yeah, we do see the twin storylines in Captain America moving forward at the as a result of this issue. Next up is Philadelphia #3. This is a book from Image, and it has been entertaining. This issue actually involves, I'll just to catch everyone up on this issue involves vampires in Philadelphia, and the source of the vampirism in Philadelphia is revealed to be one founding father of the United States, that being John Adams, who never had a great reputation. And if you have seen or listen to the soundtrack to Hamilton, you'll get some hints on it. And the reference to Hamilton is actually made directly in this issue. And we find out some of the origins of John Adams's vampirism in this issue, and how that basically took root and made its way to Philadelphia, now Philadelphia. And we're following the father-son team of detectives, the father having recently become one of the undead, how they're teaming up to try to fix this particular vampire problem. So it's been a pretty entertaining book. The art is very dramatic and pretty gory. It is not for children. Leave it at that. Next up is Thor #2. This is a potential click of the week for me. I enjoyed this immensely. It is the second issue of Donny Cates's opening story, where Thor has been conscripted. Even though he is the king of Asgard and still the god of thunder, he's been conscripted by the World Eater Galactus to become his latest herald, as they try to hold off the Black Winter, which is the event that destroyed the universe, that Galen Ta survived, and eventually became eventually became Galactus. So apparently it's coming back, and Thor and Galactus are on a quest to power up, to sufficiently feed Galactus with specific worlds, so that he will be powered up enough to battle the oncoming winter. And this is just the second part of the story. It's really entertaining. And
before you go any further, I forgot to mention this part, but you just reminded me that apparently in that tarot, at the end of that tarot book, there is also some reference to one Galen Ta, and an associated member.
Okay. And last but not least is X-Force #6. This is another potential click of the week. This is, I think, the strongest X book of the Dawn of X books that have come out of House of X and Powers of 10. We have basically the X-Force team in action, and it is a story narrated by the Beast, who we have all come to learn over the last several years is not necessarily as smart as he likes to think he is. So there is that is definitely an aspect of this story. I would say that there's plenty of action in this. There's plenty of intrigue in this. There's actually a data page that contains a missive, basically, from one of the X-Men characters, that changes what we think, changes our perception of what happened in the first several issues of this book. So I leave it at that. Definitely a lot of fun. And I guess I'll talk about X-Men #6 very quickly. It was confusing.
Okay.
Was it worse than Justice League 39?
No.
Okay.
Because Justice League 39 made me mad, actually. You know, it's okay if Hickman confuses me, because I feel like he will he will tie things together at some point soon, which has been my experience. But with Justice League, getting to that last page, I was like, what?
Fair enough. All right, so I've been sitting here getting angry for several minutes, because Roddy talked about all the books he read, and then Agent 70 talked about all the books that he read. None of you guys mentioned Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham.
Because one, we knew you were going to get to that, and two, neither one of us has read it yet.
Oh man, that's got to be the first book you read every week when it comes out. You jump on that one. That's when you jump. Now, look, the first issue, I'll admit, I wasn't too hot on, because it showed Peter Porker as like the biggest bumbling idiot that everybody hates in the multiverse, I guess,
right.
On every reality. This one redeems him a little bit, but this issue is the one where when you take the concept of a cartoon character from cartoon world and bring him into reality. Who Framed Roger Rabbit type of thing going on, and they take Spider-Ham and they take his wristwatch Spider-Verse universe hopping thing, and they go and they see Reed Richards, who starts to do some experiments and tries to get to the bottom of everything. This book pays off in so many ways that I was reading the book and I was like, I can't believe that this is an in continuity comic book in Marvel Comics with the things that they are doing and explaining and showing, because this is the book that like breaks everything about the reality of the universe, and it's funny. They do a little time travel, and when you're talking about cartoon characters and the way we think of styles of animation over different periods of time, that plays into the idea. And there's just so much fun stuff going on in this book. This book was just a delight from beginning to end. He doesn't know where to go, so he ends up at Peter Parker's apartment, and there's Mary Jane, and Mary Jane thinks that he's a little pig baby. So she starts feeding him like in the mouth in a high chair, and he's just like, yeah, I've had worse. This is fun. Being spoon-fed by Mary Jane Watson, you can have worse days, but then Peter Parker shows up and it's like, that's a fully grown dude. Like, that's not a baby. And she's like, wow, I've got to rethink my life here because I've made some mistakes. This book is good. Like, you've got to read this. And even if you don't read the whole series, this is one of those where if you get the one issue, you can just read this one issue, not know anything about the multiverse and the Spider-Verse and the, whatever. Cartoon pig in quote unquote real world. That's what this book is, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, worth noting because we talked about the first issue when it came out. So, and like I said, neither one of us had a chance to get around to this one. And it's also worth noting there is a Spider-Verse book that is also out this week. Which
I did agree with your take on the first issue where Peter Parker did not come off in the best light. I don't remember him that I don't remember him being that way in the original issues, but maybe my memory is shot. So
there was kind of some of that, but. Not to the point to where that issue was.
I wonder if that book is available on Marvel Unlimited.
Probably. I would imagine they may even have the whole old Star stuff.
Although it may also be because of the stuff that happened in Spider-Verse, that in the time between the last series and now, he's gotten such a big head because he was jumping multiverses.
Which is basically what the first issue was basically trying to convey.
But it's like, was he always that big a jerk? Because I didn't think he really was. But
I think he talked about it then because there was another. I want to say it was like Spider-Man Annual where he was talking to Howard the Duck and he was kind of having a little bit of a crisis, and he was talking to. Oh,
that's right. That came out around Christmas, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, so that was in that night. Granted, he still wasn't as big of a in that one, but like I said, he was kind of going through a crisis and kind of trying to figure some stuff out, which led him to talk to Howard the Duck, and then he came to a thing after that, and then I guess that going on into this kind of took a different spin on it.
The one other book that I read this week was Cult Classic Creature Feature number 4. Cult Classic. I believe the idea is. Cult Classic will be a bunch of anthology miniseries, and this miniseries is Creature Feature. And so the idea of this story is a comet falls in a small town. These worm slug things come out. They infect the people. The people more or less turn inside out, and it's really gross and disgusting, which makes it awesome. And then they attack the people in the town. So you get kind of the 50s, monster movie type feel, but there's also some of that 80s gory, like when they remade The Thing and stuff like that kind of thrown in there. It is set pre-internet, pre-cell phone, all of that kind of stuff. So you can say there's a Stranger Things vibe if you want to throw that in there. But it's a lot of fun. I thought it was actually a 4-issue series, but I guess it's longer because it doesn't end here and there's another issue. So I'm glad. I'm glad that it's going to another issue because this is a really fun, great series. Horror is tough to do in a comic book because it's really hard to get across gore and blood and death because you're looking at drawings. It's never as bad as like when you watch a really good horror movie, on TV or in the movie theater, where you can really, it's hard to tell what's real and what's not, and it looks so real and it looks so painful that doing that in a comic doesn't work the same way. So instead, they do what does work, where you build up the characters and you like the characters and you really start to, care for these characters, and then they start dying off. And then now you're like, I don't know who's going to survive and who isn't. And that's how it really works. When you really start to, you're flipping through the book, reading the pages like, oh, I bet this guy's going to die. He's going to die. No, he doesn't die. Fantastic. That's how it feels when you're going through the book. So it's really good. It's definitely a series that I would recommend. It's from Vault Comics. So your local store may not have them sitting around on the shelf, but I'm sure you can find them online, or you can ask them to order them through Diamond. But it is a lot of fun. I really enjoy it a lot.
This is written by Elliot Rahal, who is a former guest of the Comic Book Chronicles.
And
Yeah.
this comic actually has a soundtrack. There's a link in the back of every issue that takes you to Bandcamp. And there's a group there that has made essentially a synth pop 80s style album that you can listen to while you read it, and it gets you in that kind of 80s mindset going along with it. Yeah.
It's really neat. Cool.
And it's only $2.99 for, it's like a 6-track album of synth pop stuff. So it's definitely, it's a couple bucks. Come on.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, I really like the series. It's a lot of fun. So this is another one that's one of the first that I usually read whenever it comes out.
Gotcha. Man, Elliot Rahal was on the show back in September of 2015. Oh,
That's what I'm saying. That was a while ago.
along with current superstar writer Donny Cates, who hopefully has gotten too big for his britches to come back on our show.
Oh, and I will say, I did a review of Cult Classic on Byte, which I threw on my Twitter, and Ray Hall was nice enough to retweet it out to everybody.
Nice.
Sweet. Yes, we already let folks know that you're back on that scene again. So, so we got Tim's, which was Avengers number 30. Solid pick.
Good pick.
And we had Dirt too, but since he's here now, he can tell you himself, which I think you can try to figure out what it was.
I really love Spider-Ham. Like that made me so happy when I was done reading it. Like that was like, seriously, that was a comic. As soon as I got done reading it, I wanted to read it again. That's how much fun it was.
Yeah, that's a ringing endorsement right there, for real.
Pretty much. And for the rest of us,
I'm torn between two books. I really liked Avengers number 30, and my other pick was probably going to be X-Force number 6. So, you know what? I think I'm going to back up Tim Dog on this and say Avengers number 30.
Okay. Solid. And I think I was going to go with it was between Avengers and Doctor Strange. But weirdly enough, out of nowhere, I think I'm actually going to go with Hawkeye Free Fall number 2.
Okay.
Despite actually Star Wars could potentially setting up some good stuff. I'm gonna wait and see on that one, because
I really enjoyed that cliffhanger page ending though.
Yeah, that was actually pretty good, even though it was kind of a head scratcher at the first time, because I'm like, really, that's what happened when that part happened.
They all ran through a glowing doorway.
Not quite. Let's just say something that you would think would be happening, given what ends up happening to Luke near the end of the Empire Strikes Back with his appendage, and what went along with it. It ends up somewhere, but it doesn't seem like that would have happened that way. Let's just say.
Right.
I always wondered why Luke didn't get one of those, like, screw off the hand, screw on a hook, screw off the hand, screw on a flamethrower.
That's actually a story point here, but yeah.
Or just stick the lightsaber in the little post there. And
real talk, that actually seemed like something that Anakin would have done. Like, I am actually kind of surprised that didn't happen. But hey, you know what? The 7th season of Clone Wars is coming up, so we'll see how that works out.
Exactly.
All right, now before I go, I want to mention one more thing.
Okay.
While we were talking earlier, I did some digging through some of the stuff that I have available, and I did happen to find that we have a copy of Justice League 40 that actually comes out next week.
Oh wow!
Okay.
Yeah, it's
turnaround.
an uncolored, but it's I guess from the letterer, so it's an advance read. And here's the thing: when I got done reading it, I could tell you what happened in it.
Okay.
And it does several things that makes it clear that it is within current continuity of stuff that's happening in some of the other books.
Gotcha.
So whatever happened at the end of 39 that's going to lead off into that miniseries that Snyder's working on, it's like a Tom King type situation where it's like, okay, you go off and do your little thing. We'll let you have a little series, and then we're going to get this book back on track, because that's exactly what happens in Justice League. Justice League in number 40, basically, if anybody remembers the Daxamites, they're an alien race that was...
They're basically like the Clink, basically like the Kryptonians, but...
Right, they were Kryptonian colonists that left...
Right.
a millennia ago, whatever, and eventually they became the Daxamites. Someone, and I don't think it's given away in the advanced solicitation. No, it does. It is in the advanced solicitation. So the Eradicator, if you remember the Eradicator, the Eradicator found a group of Daxamites who were willing to pledge themselves to the Eradicator, and they are now on their way to Earth to destroy Earth and take over because they are the superior race.
Of course.
So, since there's no Kryptonians left that the Eradicator can find, he finds the Daxamites, who are an offshoot of the Kryptonians. And so now they are going to destroy Earth and take it over to continue the lineage. And that is the setup. So basically the setup for the next story of Justice League is you've got an army of supermen who are coming to Earth to destroy Earth. What do you do?
I was about to say, wasn't that a Frank Miller story recently?
Yeah, except
actually, I was going to say, I believe there was a similar storyline in Supergirl, in a season of Supergirl not too long, in the last couple of seasons.
But this one, with the way it's set up, it feels like it's probably going to be a lot more satisfying when it's done. So I will throw that in the box if you guys want to take a look at that ahead of time. But yes, so I can tell you right now, I enjoyed it. I can tell you what happened. I'm looking forward to the next issue. So definitely Justice League 40 shows that they're on a much better footing going forward.
Well, you folks will have to wait till next week to get our impressions of, but we might end up taking it out, and we'll let y'all know. That being the case, you got anything else to promote before you go?
I think the number one thing I'm going to promote is a good night's sleep. I'm going to go to bed early tonight.
Sounds good.
I need to do that myself.
Doing all those bites are tiring.
Oh man, I tell you, it takes a bite out of me.
Oh no!
Boo! Get him out of here.
I'll see you guys
later.
Easy.
All righty. So,
and that, folks, we are go headlong into an ad read before we go into the news.
Yes, our first ad read of the night is for Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your taste and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink Wines through CSPN. Do it today.
And now the news. Starting off as we do about every time about the time with the cinematic news. And first off, Sonic the Hedgehog movie may be on track for a big box office debut. Excuse me, debut. I'm getting all choked up just thinking about it. So, yeah, there's been some Sonic news. And in the past, that movie's still coming out. Jim Carrey's still involved, and apparently it's coming out on Valentine's Day, February 14th, because of President's Day is on the 17th, I guess. And yeah,
Okay.
we'll see how that works out. Because sure,
All
that's
right.
the thing. Next
up, Ewan McGregor addressed Obi-Wan shooting delays. So earlier reports emerged suggesting that the Obi-Wan Disney Plus series was running into problems. Insiders close to the project said the series was on indefinite hold and so on and so forth. But Ewan McGregor dismissed the rumors that this had anything to do with the show's quality. He basically came out and said they're still on track to start shooting January of 2021.
Right. So he's saying that, and there's been other people saying that there might be others that he's pretty much trying to stamp out fires. Who's right about this? I would argue that he would probably know more than just whoever these other people are from these rumor sites. But we don't know what's going on. So as far as we know, it is what he says it is, and whatever's going on is whatever it is. So we'll see when it gets to that point. Star Wars confirms which animated series ships appeared in Rise of the Skywalker, which I think was a new. Basically this we already kind of have beat this point to death, but Star Wars Resistance just ended, I believe, this past week. Which is why it brings this up, because apparently a couple of the ships in Star Wars Resistance may have been shown in that big battle, along with all the other ships that we have talked about in the past. Now, granted, I haven't seen any part of Resistance yet, so I don't know. I don't know if they have like racing ships or whatever the case may be, but I couldn't tell you what ships was what. I don't. Have you ever watched it? Have you watched it or no?
I watched a few episodes when it first started.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I wasn't a fan of the animation style.
Yeah, that's right. You have said that. So it is what it is on that one. Next up,
the world recently mourned the tragic loss of Kobe Bryant, NBA superstar and surefire Hall of Famer. His eldest daughter, and several other members of the extended Mamba basketball team group, because that's where they were all headed. And one thing that came out that I guess people were sometimes reminded of, and were also reminded of, is that a Star Wars Clone Wars animated droid, a tactical droid K2B4, was actually introduced during season 3, and its color scheme and name were tributes to Kobe Bryant, as in KB, Kobe Bryant, and 24, his uniform number 24.
Did not know that. Which, yeah, that's the thing. So, all right, moving right along. Marvel cancels Hulu's Howard the Duck and Tiger and Dazzler shows. So everything that was going on, that they were on the block anyway. So I guess it was just a matter of time. And I believe Kevin Smith kind of came out, who was the who was a part of the show as the executive producer and writer or something like that. Right.
We also have to remind ourselves that these deals were made pre Kevin Feige taking over everything.
Right.
So it makes a lot of sense that a lot of the TV deals were just going to be, canceled, and whatever comes out, whatever comes forward, what comes out in the future is going to be something that Feige and the rest of the Marvel Studios team are going to coordinate and work on. Right.
Basically, according to Smith, he said he got a text from his fellow executive producer Dave Willis in the morning saying, "We got Tiger and Dazzler." Smith said, "I called him and asked him, is that that means what I think it is?" And he said he just got word that there will be no Howard the Duck show. The only explanation was, "We have no plans for this character at this time." And this is actually also on the heels of the fact that they pretty much axed all of the writing staff for that Tiger and Dasher show in the previous month. So, yeah, that was the thing. Yeah, well, will something comes up for it? We'll see. Next, Disney Plus She-Hulk series next in line. Casting has begun apparently. Now, again, we have said, rumors, you got to take them with a grain of salt, and this is another one of those, and I said also I was going to stop doing a lot of these, but, some of them are titillating, some of them are not. There's a basically rumor that that She-Hulk's getting, that they're staffing up for the She-Hulk stuff. Hopefully that's the case.
All right. So next up, according to the Hollywood Reporter, the co-writers and directors of the first Captain Marvel movie are not returning to the sequel. Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, who co-wrote and directed the Brie Larson, the original Brie Larson-led movie, are not anticipated to return for the sequel, but are in talks for some future Marvel Studios related work down the line. Interesting. THR, the Hollywood Reporter, specifically mentions a possible Disney Plus series. Interesting.
Yeah, and there's apparently was a petition out there to remove Brie Larson as Captain Marvel for some stupid reason. People are dumb. Marvel has approached the farewell director Lulu Wang about a film. So the farewell writer-director Lulu Wang confirms that she has been approached about directing a film for Marvel Studios. Wang revealed during a director's roundtable hosted by the Hollywood Reporter that she was approached by the studio to direct a movie. When asked about his comments regarding host, we'll skip that part. The host basically asked the panel if they'd been approached to do a Marvel film, at which point Wang raised her hand, confirming that she had.
And the snipers didn't take her out right away. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they couldn't. I would like to think they wouldn't react for that. Now, if she had gone on to say for what and in what respect, that'd have been a different story. You're right. They definitely would have been trained on her. But next up.
All right. Next up, apparently in an old interview that just saw the light of day because New Mutants is about to be released in theaters, Maisie Williams, Arya Stark herself, was worried that fans would not want her as Wolfsbane. Rain Sinclair. It's pronounced Rain. People.
Yes.
Would not want her in that role. I don't see why.
Exactly. I'm like, that's perfect casting. Perfect. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't. I mean, that would be one of the main ones. In fact, I think we did when that came out. And a matter of fact, from what I believe this article goes on to it, that she and Anna Taylor-Joy were one of the first ones on the project, like a year and a half before anybody else was cast.
Right. I could do without that guy from Stranger Things being Cannonball, but what are you gonna do?
I mean, I could definitely do without that dude that's playing Bobby also, but that's a
that's some other stuff. Jeez.
Yeah, that's a sad thing. So, but as far as them two are concerned, like that was like perfect casting as far as we could tell.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we'll see how that movie comes out, shapes out when it comes out. Next up, Marvel Studios bring in obscure New Mutants. Speaking of hero to the MCU, guess what, folks? It's quite possible that one Danny Moonstar might be coming to Thor: Love and Thunder. Excuse me. Sorry, a little under weather. But yeah, it's apparently. Oh Jesus! Take this out, please.
No worries. So Marvel Studios may be bringing in Danielle Moonstar, who is a member of the Valkyrior, and may actually be introduced during the next Thor movie. Interesting. All right.
Still, yeah, it's still that point rumor stage, but hey, things have happened.
All right. Next up, I'll take the next one. Give you some time to recover. There's a reason Margot Robbie prioritized Birds of Prey over Gotham City Sirens. So apparently, she chose to focus on Birds of Prey specifically because of the broader focus that the comics team traditionally has. Okay. Alrighty. Next up,
There have been people on social media talking about the potential treatment of the Cassandra Cain character in the movie. I guess age wise and otherwise, I suppose. So some people have kind of been rowing about that and other things. I don't know, whatever.
all right. Next up, how are you ready to take over?
I'm good.
Okay.
Black Canary's Birds of Prey powers were influenced by the Injustice games, which makes sense given that trailer because that definitely kind of felt like something that was out of the game. Which hey, not a bad piece of inspiration. So apparently, I think. Yeah, here we go. According to Jenny Smollett Bell, she drew inspiration from her performance from the video game Injustice 2 of all places. In an interview with IGN, she explained how beyond simply looking at the way that Justice 2's Dinah Lance comported herself physically when using her powers, she also took the time to consider how the character only wields them in a particular circumstances. Which, if you're a pretty good Black Canary player and in Injustice, you could mop up. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right.
That's all I'm gonna say.
I only played the. Was she in 2?
She was in 2. I think she was in 1 also. I can't remember, but I know she was in definitely 2.
I was about to say I'd have to dust off the PS3 to try it out because I'm waiting for PS5 now. So, next up, it's official. The Hall of Justice officially received its name in Back from the Future Part 1, the latest episode of Supergirl. That's cool.
Yeah. So it's canon now. I ain't caught up in any of that stuff. Next up, Arrow's Ramsey is stoked for HBO Max's Green Lantern series. So David Ramsey, who plays John Diggle, aka Spartan on CW's Arrow, is excited for HBO Max's upcoming Green Lantern series. He said he's talked to Greg Berlanti about it, and they have a great plan. Said the star. People are champing at the bit to see this universe, to see this military corps come to live action, and I'm among the people who are excited. And this kind of goes along with they've been putting like little teases as to potential as to like Diggle possibly being Green Lantern like throughout Arrow, and I think including during the crisis must have been a big one. Now I don't think there was any word as whether he's going to be in the series, but if he's talking about it, seems like that might be the case. But that doesn't necessarily mean that just because he's been told about it, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's in it. So we'll see. I would like to see it because it's like I said, that'd be kind of crazy them teasing, or at least perceived tease, I should say, from what people were doing since the first season of Arrow. To see anything come out of it. We'll see. Next up.
All right. After years away from the franchise, John Barrowman, who plays character Jack Harkness, finally made his return to the world of Doctor Who, appearing in 5th episode of the show. He had, I guess, spun off into the series Torchwood, and that ran for 4 seasons and concluded way back in 2011. But now this character has made its way back into Doctor Who proper.
Yeah, apparently so. Now you may know the name John Barrowman as also being Malcolm Merlin from Arrow, and Legends and all up and through the Arrowverse. So
I was about to say, no offense.
Who? Well, okay, people other than you would know. So yeah, and his Jack Harkness is a fan favorite amongst the New Who fandom. So it's kind of, which is actually kind of weird considering that last episode, or when we talked about last week, that they killed Torchwood off. So, and I'm not up on the new stuff, so I don't know. And actually, there was another Doctor Who story that I was meant to put in here, which I totally forgot to put in here, but maybe next week. Next up, Uncharted movie bumps Masters of the Universe off March 2021 release list. So, yeah, that's weird. So it says here is Sony Pictures still thinks its Uncharted movie is coming out at some point during the current space-time continuum. That is the writer's words, not mine. Even as it hunts for another director, the 7th for the 13-year-old project. 13 years, Jesus! I didn't know it was that old. Sony on Thursday moved the film from December 18th, 2020 to release to March 5th, 2021, which bumps out that He-Man movie that was supposed to come out that same day. Now it doesn't have any kind of release date. Maybe that's probably for the best. That's my editorialism, but either way, yeah. And of course, this is the Uncharted movie with Tom Holland in it, so that has no director. We'll see if that one if that one sees the light of day or not. Next.
All right, next up, the last story we have in cinematic news. There is a feature on Henry Cavill showing how he chopped up 8 guys at once in a Witcher fighting scene. So I have not yet watched The Witcher.
I believe this was the second. I've seen this one. It was the second episode. They basically did a shot by shot of him going through the whole fight scene. It was actually pretty good. I hadn't seen this particular video, but I've seen the fight. It is actually not bad. So, wait, it says first fight. So was that the first fight or second fight? I thought it was the second one. Either way, in one of those 2 episodes, he had a fight with a bunch of dudes, and he chopped some heads and other extremities.
Okay.
Yeah. And that, folks, is the end for the cinematic news. I actually might want to call attention to the clickbait section, I guess. Excuse me. I guess
you can
speaking
only write
of
the story today that you
stop. There's an interview with Scott Snyder that people
Which
might
just started playing.
Huh?
Which is what just started playing, I think.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I hate auto playing things, but yeah, basically, is the title of it is called "Comic Scribe Scott Snyder Isn't Scared to Train His Composition," and it's basically a conversation with him, basically talking about raising his family and writing comics and teaching writing. So it's an interesting video if you want to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
So let us go into the comic book news. Starting off with, thank you. One that I forgot to put in last week that PC Dirt told us about. That's one that's kind of near and dear to both of our hearts, and that is Star Trek Deep Space Nine returns in comic books in April.
Oh no! IDW Publishing brings the beloved DS9 crew back to comics with a taut noir thriller. It's a 4-part comic book miniseries entitled Star Trek Deep Space Nine: Too Long a Sacrifice, under the license of Viacom CBS Consumer Products. It's written by longtime Star Trek scribes David Tipton and Scott Tipton and illustrated by Greg Scott, illustrator of Gotham Central. The new series marks the first Deep Space Nine title published in over a decade.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And it's not even a crossover, and it's just a straight up, and it's not Mirror Universe. It's just a straight up DS9 book. So cool. Next up,
The Walking Dead creator may have just revealed the origin of the zombie virus. So Robert Kirkman may have just dropped the zombie virus origin, though it's possible he's just joking. What did he say?
So I believe the TLDR was basically like he was being interviewed, and apparently in the pitch to The Walking Dead, he had something about aliens.
Oh, that's right. I did read this.
Yeah, about aliens being involved in it, but and that was for him to get the book, for them to basically okay the book, but he never went back on that plot.
Right. If I'm not mistaken, that's how he pitched it to. He pitched something about an alien origin of the zombie virus to Jim Valentino.
Right. And I think he just and basically it's been
Valentino, I believe at the time was the publisher of Image. So
right. So there you go.
All right.
Space Battle Lunchtime goes from comics to card game. Renegade Game Studios has announced the incoming release of Space Battle Lunchtime card game, which is based off the namesake graphic novel by Natalie Reyes and published by Oni Press, about Earthbaker Peony, who gets the deal of a lifetime when she agrees to be a contestant on the universe's hottest reality TV cooking show, Space Battle Lunchtime. In the game, players will face off as contestants in the intergalactic cooking competition. They'll collect and combine flavor cards to create the perfect prize-winning dish, trying to impress the alien judges with their creativity. So, yeah, that's out there if you want to check it out.
Cool.
Interesting. Yeah. Cool. Next
up, one of Marvel's most legendary villains, Dr. Doom, is soon going to be a part of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 as a playable character on the exclusive Nintendo. What the hell is the latest Nintendo Switch? On the Nintendo Switch.
Yep. Believe it is a part of the DLC, and I think if you got the season pass, you may get that. See, yeah. It's part of the Black Order DLC Pack 3. Fantastic Four Shadows of Doom is arriving spring 2020. Yeah, Dr. Doom. I still need to finish that game. It's pretty good, actually. It's basically, if you played any of the old Marvel Ultimate Alliance games, it's that.
Mm-hmm.
But the difficulty is what it is on that one, because those weren't necessarily easy. But yeah. Next up, Sideshow Collectibles reveals its amazing life-size Baby Yoda collectible. You knew it had to happen. And yes, social media went all kind of crazy over it. Matter of fact, I think this came out. This was like today or yesterday. Actually, today as the time of this recording. It is a 16.5 inch tall in the detail. They call it the child because that's what it goes by, but everybody else calls it either Baby Yoda or Yodito or some version therein. So yeah. Let's see. Is there? I'm assuming this is all of these pictures. If you're watching the video, here we go. I guess that apple is for reference and not necessarily, a part of the package. But there you go. That's what you get. You get your Baby Yoda, and I'm sure that one's going to fly off the shelves. But it's $350.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna be pretty happy with the much cheaper Star Wars Black figure.
Yeah,
which looks really, really good, and comes with a frog.
Yeah, of course. Where this one comes with the shifter ball.
Oh, I think the Star Wars Black version does as well, but obviously it's at a much smaller scale.
Right.
No.
But again, $350.
I know.
That's kind of ridiculous. But anyway, it'll be on sale somewhere between August.
Someone will buy it.
Yeah, I've already seen some people who were like, yeah, all right.
They're pre-ordering that, man.
Yeah, or a GoFundMe or something. I don't know. Yeah, but sometime between August and October of this year, that'll be out. Next up,
Brian Stelfreeze, Roxanne Gay, Method Man, and more unite for Marvel's Voices #1. I believe we've mentioned this book already. It's an anthology collection that brings the superhero celebration and reflection of the Marvel's Voices podcast to the page.
Yep, but it is coming out in a few short weeks. So if you're, and I believe FOC for this is may have just passed, along with some really nice variant covers for Bitterroot, which is another reason why it's come back up again. So cool. Next up, Jason Aaron frames his 2020 Avengers plans as breeding ground for everything new I wanted to do in the Marvel U. So, like we've been talking about this, all the stuff that he's been kind of lacing in the Avengers that is upcoming, and I guess starting with the Moonlight stuff that is this next arc. That is some of that stuff is gonna bear fruit or come out. So according to him, he's like, you'll see it more. And I guess this is also stuff coming from his newsletter, which I believe you said you subscribe to, correct?
I do.
Yeah. So he says that Yeah, James Gunn launched his Avenger run in May 2018. 20 months in, he's now framing 2020 as the main source and breeding ground for everything new wanted to do in the Marvel Universe. You're seeing that unfold right now in the wild space of venturing, Silver Surfer stabbing, Brood, Thor, roaring, Starbrand Reborn, which we just talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The most recent issue of which 29. Blah 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 blah. So you'll see it even more in the next big arc that he's been writing, which features a character I've voiced an interest in online a few times lately. One I've never really sunk my teeth into, but we'll be bringing back to the book. Well, excuse me, we'll be bringing to the book, and what hopefully will be a hopefully profoundly kick-ass way. And he's talking about Moon Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Who's been in Avengers books before. He's also been a side, well, he wasn't an Avengers called Avengers, but he's done some stuff with them. So he is not new to the Avengers territory. Just, just been a while since he's been around them. So there you go.
Alrighty. Next up, Old Man Captain America faces an army of zombie Red Skulls in Marvel. What was it? Captain America: The End, #1.
Right.
It's written and drawn by Eric Larson and colored by Dono Sanchez Almara. And I guess there's a preview out now for the book. So when is this solicited for?
I wouldn't say that might be next week.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Because I know the ones that came out this week was Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange, and that might have been another one.
Right. I think there was more than 2.
Yeah, February 5th. So yeah, next week.
Yeah, next week. Okay.
Geoff Johns on bringing Superboy-Prime to Shazam #10. Spoilers for Shazam #10, which came out, I believe, last week. He said, according to Geoff Johns, now is the right time to bring back Superboy-Prime, who appeared for the first time in almost a decade in last week's Shazam #10, and Prime is the only blast from the past who's coming to Shazam. John said that the Justice Society of America will also soon be featured in that book. The whiny but ultra-powerful Superboy-Prime played a central role in John's 2005 event, Infinite Crisis, and other high-profile DC comics during the mid-2000s. But the character has been missing from continuity since 2011, before New 52. So bringing his toy back into play, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Next up.
Alrighty, next up, spoiler alert for Shazam #10 also. The Wizard Shazam came back despite having previously died in the book, and apparently he betrays Billy Batson by attacking his father, Clarence Charles C.C. Batson.
Oh no.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I read this and I was like, wait, now they were talking about don't let Mr. Tawny be the one that did it. But no, the permalinks, that's what did it. Anyway, I'm not sure whether I'm going to drop that book, and I know I'm definitely behind it. There's a lot going on there. But also, speaking of Shazam #10, DC's greatest villain knows all of Doomsday Clock and New 52's secrets. So apparently, I guess this is another basically saying that this is going back to Superboy-Prime again. So yeah, Shazam #10 reveals that Superboy-Prime was alive and imprisoned deep within the Monster Lands. The Kryptonian teacher has since been taken a strong disliking to Billy Batson and the rest of the Shazam family for some reason, and that's why he's feel like it's time for him to come back. So technically, this article is one I probably didn't have to put in there. Next up.
Alrighty. Batman's newest foe is Punchline, and she may have a Joker connection. According to James Tynion IV, this newest foe that he has introduced actually first appeared on the cover of March's Batman #92, but who has not yet made her in-store debut. So that is coming up.
Okay. Cool. Harley Quinn and Catwoman team up in Batman 89 first look. So you get a preview for Batman 89. To which there you go, and there you go.
We
watch the video.
Alrighty. Next up, Batman Beyond's secret identities revealed, and it's a doozy. So this is the Batwoman Beyond, I think.
Well, it says it is Batwoman Beyond that is revealed, but
Mhm.
it's Batman Beyond number 40.
Right.
Already
Exactly. Batwoman Beyond secret identities revealed.
Right.
My apologies. And
Mhm.
it's a doozy. Yeah, and spoiler alert, it's revealed to be someone who is tied to the Bat family. It is Dick Grayson's daughter, Elena.
Dun dun dun. Shadow of the Batgirl puts spotlight in Floral Cape on Cassandra Cain. So this is, I believe, DC's newest middle grades book. Wherein Cassandra Cain gets the spotlight on, and written by Sarah Kuhn with art by Nicole Go. Shadow of the Batgirl picks up Cassandra Cain's story when she was still an isolated young assassin who's been trained and manipulated by her villainous father to commit murderous acts. And this is just an article talking with the creative team for that. The book comes out next week, though. Oh, excuse me. The book is actually out this week and will be out next week in other places. Next.
So, referencing something that we discussed earlier when we were discussing the ending of Justice League number 39, a chainsword wielding Wonder Woman teases Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's next DC event. Apparently, this is described as the encore. What they presume in this piece is that it's the encore to Dark Knight's Metal. It may incorporate what we see at the end of Justice League number 39 as well. So we shall see.
To which, given how much stuff is going out of Dark Knight's Metal and supposedly has been referenced to and from, I'm like, did it ever actually end? Anyway.
Not really.
Yeah. DC Universe Online's next release swoops into the Birds of Prey's comic series. So DC Universe Online is actually still going. That's the bigger headline here.
Oh no.
I take that back. That's not nice. The game, it's not to everybody's liking, but it's had some legs. It's been around a good while though. But apparently, in April on PC and consoles, there's going to basically some new content will be called Birds of Prey, and of course, it's going to be referencing, the titular ladies. One of which I know for a fact that Oracle is already in the game because I think she's like one of your tutorial NPCs or whatnot. But there will be more Birds of Prey content going into this next batch of content. So cool. Next.
Alrighty, Matt Kint and Wilfredo Torres take the James Bond trope meta in their own Bang title at Dark Horse. Okay.
So yeah, it's a superhero memory. So
I was about to say, Bang tells the story of Secret Agent Thomas Cord, who might not actually be Secret Agent Thomas Cord as he starts to unravel the mystery of his own life. Dun, dun, dun. I'm actually just going to play the sound effect.
Or more like dun dun.
All right, seriously.
We'll see how that comes out. Oh no, it could be something interesting about it. Last but not least, Adora looks back on her past in She-Ra: Legend of the Fire Princess with a nod to the 1985 cartoon. So Noel Stevenson's hit Netflix cartoon She-Ra and the Princess of Power expands to comic books next month with Scholastic's graphic novel She-Ra and the Princess of Power, Legend of the Fire Princess. Writer Gigi DG, yeah, that's right, and artist Paulina Ganuchaw are no strangers to magical fantasy, with Gigi's fantasy webcomic Cucumber Quest and Ganuchaw's work on Magical Girl comic book Zodiac Star Force. Oh yeah, I knew that name from somewhere. So it was a natural progression for them to work on this popular princess franchise. And the book will be focusing on Adora dealing with her past as she discovers her new power to heal corrupted runestones. I guess if you've been watching the Netflix show, you kind of know what that means. This leads Adora and the Princess Squad on an epic adventure that, of course, has them crossing paths with Catra and the Horde as they uncover the history of the Fire Princess that ruined her own kingdom. And then the rest is an article with the creative team. So if you're interested in that, check it out.
Alrighty.
And that, folks, is that. We will have one more ad read, though.
Our last ad read of the night is for Amazon. Let's get Roddykat in some rest tonight. So help us keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. You know, we read the quick ones. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or hair products. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
And as we close this one out, we'd like to thank each and every one of you all coming out, whether it be live or whether it be through audio form or whether it be later on the YouTube video. We appreciate you. For myself, Roddykat, you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can also find me at News Nerds 2 on Twitter and also CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. Maybe we can get them on Byte. Who knows?
Ha!
And PC_Dirt on Byte, who is at CMCRVWS. But you can also find him at PC_Dirt on Twitter, which I'm sure he will be posting. Well, he has been actually posting said bites on his Twitter. So you can go check those out there. PopCultureNetwork.com and PopCultureNet on Twitter. You can also check them out there. Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, The Click Nation on Twitter, CB Cron on Twitter, theclicknation.com, and also Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off. You can find this here program, on the Coast of the Podcast Network, CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us at your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and also the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And for that, we will be back next week. Brand new month. Happy Black History Month. Which, granted, we're still a couple of days from, but you know what? Hey, why not start early?
Exactly. I was about to say, go and see Fatsai. Happy Lunar New Year for everyone who's celebrated this past week.
There you go. And with that, folks, this has been the Comic Book Chronicle.
Peace. One. And I'm looking for where I put the sound effect.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Good evening, Rick. Would you believe it's Dr.